Hey everybody, welcome back to Dan Tasty Vegan. No meat, no dairy, no problem. My name is Maria Rose and I smell like garlic right now. I made this big batch of homemade hummus. Oh, so good. And I can't stop eating it with this homemade bread recipe that I'm about to show you. It's just like addicting. Homemade bread, homemade hummus, you can't go wrong. So I hope this bread recipe helps you out in case your store has run out of bread because people are hoarding it. Or, you know, if you just want to learn how to make homemade bread, it's a really nice skill to have and it's really comforting and calming. So let's just all take a deep breath together and just make some bread together. And while you're here, please make sure to subscribe and finger my like button because that really helps my channel to grow. So if you like this content, it helps me out. So let's just get started. So this is how you measure out flour. You want to use the flat end of a knife and just kind of chop it down like that and then scrape off the flour. With baking, you want to make sure that everything's pretty precise because it follows, you know, like chemistry or something. I don't know, but you want to make sure that you like follow the recipe when you bake. Otherwise, stuff's not going to turn out. So we're starting with our bread flour, but I have the recipe linked below and I give you ideas of different flours you can use. My brother tested this recipe a shit ton of times and he came up with some really good flour combinations that you can use. So check the link below of ways that you can incorporate like whole wheat flour or even oat flour. And oat flour is pretty easy to make. You literally just put it in a blender and it makes flour just like that. Pretty easy. So check out the recipe below for those tips. And then you want to take your active dry yeast, and after you open this, make sure you store it in a freezer in like a sealed container. Actually just store yeast in the freezer in general. It'll last forever. And then you want to add your salt and our last ingredient, water. I used lukewarm water for this because that helps to activate the yeast a little bit quicker. And then you just stir it up, just really slowly, making sure not to spill things over the side, and just stir it until, you know, you incorporate all of the flour. And then you're gonna cover it either with a towel or a Dutch oven lid or some type of lid, and you let it rise for 8 hours. So it's good to make this at night and then you can just bake it in the morning. Then in the morning you just flour a surface, and it helps to get the dough out with a knife because the dough is very sticky and it'll like double in size. It'll rise up a lot and look pretty crazy. And so it just will stick to your hands, so it works better if you just get the dough out with a knife. And then you're gonna want to knead the dough. So here is what you do if you want. It depends on what type of bread you want. So if you want it to be like light and fluffy and airy, kind of like a baguette, then you only want to knead the dough for like 5 to maybe 10 seconds, maybe 10 seconds. The less you knead the dough, the more light and airy this bread will turn out. And the more you knead the dough, so upwards of like 5, 10, 15 minutes, it'll turn out to be more dense. So if you want it to be more like a sandwich type dense bread, then knead it for a little bit longer. And then you want to oil whatever pans you're going to be baking this in. I am trying out 2 different breads right now. So I was putting one in this little casserole dish that has a lid. And then I was also making an oatmeal one that doesn't have a lid. And this is kind of funny because when we moved, I got rid of all of my bread pans and I was like, I don't need this many bread pans. Come to find out, like, yeah, I was searching all around to find a lid for this. And what you normally want to do is like have another bread pan and you flip it upside down to cover it. So I was like running around trying to find a lid that fit, and the only thing I could come up with was this baking sheet. But hey, it worked. So you want to bake this bread for 30 minutes covered first. So when you bake it with a lid on it, it helps it to steam and create a nice crunchy crust. So this is very important.
Slippers can't handle me.
Your slippers can't handle the quarantine?
They can't handle the wiggles. Benny Wonka.
The Benny Wiggles.
I make fast moves. And they just, I blew them out. You already.
They're only a couple months old.
I know, that's what I'm saying. And you were laughing because I stomp around in house. I need real shoes, it's house shoes.
So after you bake it with the lid on it for 30 minutes, you want to take the lid off and bake it for an additional 20 minutes. So there's some modifications you need to do if you use different flour than just bread flour, so make sure you check the link below. But this bread turns out so amazing, and the crust turns out perfect. Just listen. You guys ready? Ready for this? Oh my god. Ooh. Doesn't that sound so good? So this is what it looked like when I didn't really knead it that much, because I really like just dipping it in olive oil and just being nice and spongy like that. This was the partial oatmeal flour bread that I tried out as well. And there you go. And there you have it. I hope you enjoy this recipe. It's just such a nice, comforting, cozy thing to do right now. Please tag me on Instagram if you made this. I would love to see your homemade bread photos. So I will see you guys very soon in the next video. All right, bye.